Who are heroes? Is there a superhero? In this quiet time we are creating together, I invite you to join me explore and experience the real animated life of heroes. Heroes are those who are there at the exact moment of need to give help, especially in cases of felt danger or pain. Some are ordinary heroes who play their roles sincerely with care. They fulfill necessary needs to sustain our lives, to experience security and love. A mother, a mentor, a childhood friend, or a beloved caregiver. They are the people who mattered to you no matter how ordinary they were. Then there were those who just appeared during crucial times. Perhaps some relative or a friend, even strangers who just happen to have the right skill, connection, or simply the time and the compassion to see me through the night. They brought hope and solutions nearer. They became and are my superheroes. Let's spend a few moments of prayer, of good wishes, full of gratitude. Thank all the special heroes in our lives, ordinary or super. Yet the most amazing was when there was no one at all, only me, which to my mind did not count. At a loss, made helpless by mixed emotions of fear, anger, whatever. A split second of remembrance, a cry for help, focus above. And time passed. Then there was a powerful presence, a different energy around me, inside me. Something changed, as if a hidden wellspring of inner strength. The power of goodness awakens. Clarity, purpose, and willpower to make solutions consolidates within. And I'm okay. In the stillness that followed then and even now, I can see all along it was you. You who were behind all the heroes who come into our lives. The greatest wonder of all is you made a hero of me to save me from my own limitations and weaknesses. You made me discover the greatness in me, a clear reflection of the greatness in you. Truth is, you already planted the seeds in all of us, the seeds of heroes, the mother qualities of purity or truth, peace, power, love, and inner joy or bliss. All these enable us heroic acts of kindness and mercy for ourselves and for others, just like you. You are the unseen, benevolent creator and nurturer of heroes. That's why everyone calls out, looks up, and praises you. Because you are the superhero of the whole world. Throughout the day, in quiet spaces, let our hearts continue to remember with love and gratitude the one and only beloved, supreme superhero, our God. Om Shanti. I am soul. I am peace. The hero actor in my life.
Good afternoon, friends, sisters, and brothers in inner and outer space. Here we are once more in the Philippines, and we greet all of you out there in our revolving universe, whether you are in the North Temperate Zone, as Sister Ellen is right now, or in the tropics, or down there, welcome to our Saturday program. With me is Miss Bell, our beloved father, companion, friend, advisor, but really, really a hero in his own right because he has traversed a wide space in our universe and he has become a good example to many of us who are fortunate enough to meet him personally. And even if we don't meet him or we haven't met him yet, he has become a hero to many who have heard and read him. This afternoon, we shall talk about pain, Sir June, trauma, because we have accepted the fact that trauma is part of life. Tell us a little about your little trauma, Sir June.
Good afternoon to everyone, my brothers and sisters. Our topic for today is about trauma and pain, and caused by trauma, right? Okay. So for me, trauma could be physical and sometimes emotional trauma. And there are some instances that both are present, the emotional trauma and the physical trauma. And there are accidents, car accidents, any people who suffered any calamities, go through it until we decide that we have to move on. And make sure that we process also trauma. The pain caused by trauma is quite difficult. No? Just like emotional pain or physical pain. We normally use, I had a traumatic experience. And when a person says that, he or she refers to traumatic experience, emotional traumatic experience, or a physical traumatic experience, or both. So that's how I see trauma.
To our right, Sir June, is Miss Belle Nakar, who has been with us also through the ups and downs of inner space. And she is one really spirited person who's very generous with her time and her capabilities. Share with us, Miss Belle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Om Shanti. Good afternoon, Sister Patricia. Hi. Yes, my experience with my actually there are so many, and honestly many to mention, or I can't remember, but I believe the trauma I had before was like short term, because I have my hero up there I look up to, in terms of, experiencing those pain, because pain is part of life. And I believe that I just pray to God, look up to Him, and I know He will take care of everything. Yes.
Good afternoon out there, Sister Patricia.
Hello, Pat.
Sister, would you like to share your idea of trauma? I think all of us really have experienced it. The first trauma in our existence is when we are being born. Imagine living in the comfort of our mother's womb for 9 months at the most. We are suddenly torn out of that comfort space to go out into the world and experience life. Oh, sister, tell us about it.
Yes, okay. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I
Very
was
clearly.
muted. Thank you. You did already a pasakalya to what I was going to tell. What I wanted to trauma is, it's good we're talking about it because it's not something that we often talk about. And it is about time we do, because it is something that has an effect, even if it happened way before, even if you think that it did not have that much of an effect. The reality in my case, as far as I know, is that it does, but it comes in different ways. You were talking about the trauma of the first trauma, which is being actually birthed. And I said, this is something that I wanted to share because it is not common that we do know about. We hear about it. It is a pre-birth and a post-birth trauma. So I'll try to make the story of it quite short. But it so happened that I was going through some sort of a therapy, and the memory of my pre-birth trauma started, and the post-birth trauma. And in that scenario, I could vividly see and feel what I was feeling when I was about to come out from my mother's womb. My mom at that time was drugged, because uso pa nun yung ganon. And so she could not do any pushing. And I felt that I was struggling already, and I needed to get out of the womb. And in a way, I was getting tired already, having gone through all the passage of birthing. It's not easy for a child, for a little baby. So to make it short, I was struggling, and there was something that was pulling me back, although I was pushing myself up because nobody could help me. And I remember feeling parang I was getting angry and a bit resentful that nobody could help me, that I had to do all the work, and that I had to get myself out, or else it was parang I knew that it was important. I had to get out. Finally, I got out of my, parang merong humihila sa akin, because later on I found out what it was, no? So I had to push myself or pull myself, or whichever, but it was both a feeling of you just have to do it, you have to do it alone, just go, and feeling resentful, inis at the same time. Nobody can help you, nobody can do it, just do it. So I got out. So that was first. And then after that, another scenario was I could see and I could feel that I was being carried away from my mother. And I was feeling panicky, and I was feeling anxious. Bakit ako hinihiwalay? Bakit kami umaalis? Bakit ako inaalis sa nanay ko? You know? And it was all of this confusion, rejection, feelings of anxiety I was feeling. And then I was put inside a box, and then I was left alone. Now I was put in an incubator pala. So the feelings then were, not only was it feelings of rejection, feelings of anxiety and worry and confusion, there was then a feeling of abandonment and a feeling of a sadness, extreme sadness and grief, because I was alone. Um, and but those were just the feelings, just to tell you that that was a very traumatic experience. And birthing is actually, as it is, as you said, Tensi, a traumatic experience for the child. Now, it was only years later that I understood the impact of that. Kaya pala, as I was growing up, I have this, yung parang I had trust issues with people because I couldn't trust the person who was supposed to help me. Anyway, so I have parang feeling ko I have to do things by myself. I can only trust me. So ako lang ang parang I always have to be in charge of what, especially if it involved me, in charge of things, you know? And then there are times when I would panic. I would panic because I panicked when I was there. And then there was also a feeling of the need to belong because I was abandoned. And I have this strong need. I have to belong. I have to be included. So they were all with me as I was growing up. And then there are times when I would just be sad, nagbo-blues. And I remember that certain incidents, I would just go into deep sadness. It was only much later when I understood all of these because of training, because I trained as a facilitator also, as we were processing also these events. And also when I took up Raj Yoga, when I took up the Gyan, the meditation practice, Gyan is the knowledge, did I understand what was happening, and I was able to help myself because I had a lot of issues growing up, and some of them still come up. So that's just in brief, just to tell you that childhood trauma is not something to dismiss. Baby pa yan, wala pa yang epekto, wala pa yang kamuang-muang. Okay lang yan. That's not true. There's consciousness already. There are feelings already, because there's already an energy, the living being, the soul is inside that body. So that's something that is new that I'd like to introduce, because I'd like to focus on childhood, taking care of trauma of childhood. It's not
Sister.
to be dismissed. Yes.
Thank you, sister, for sharing your birthing experience with us. It is
Sorry if it
also-
takes time. Go ahead.
Sister, it is wonderful to be told that now, for many of us to hear of it, because many of us really say, wala pang kamuang-muang yan, bata pa yan. Oh no, when we are in our mom's womb, we are already beings, we have a soul, and we feel, we think. So experiences even in the womb will have to be already channeled towards our end. Sir June? And truly, we have to give meaning to every stage of our lives. And we have been joined by Sister Helen. Welcome to our Saturday experience, Sister Helen Serrano. Hello there. And also,
Hello. Yes.
Welcome, welcome, Sister Dr. Helen Pavon Serrano.
I'm sorry. So, ano yung topic natin?
Trauma po. Yung mga masasakit na mga
Ah,
karanasan.
ako, kasi I shared na last week, about something personal, about, I don't know if you still remember, as a doctor, I wasn't able to save my own father because of there was no blood in the hospital. So I had that trauma in me that I didn't realize. So that when it was my husband who was in the hospital, I wasn't able to, there's the fear of taking care of him, and there's the denial that I might not be able to help him out as well. So that time, I didn't realize it was a real trauma. Kasi I thought I was just in denial. I wasn't going to his room. I wasn't directly taking care of him. And I realized later on, now, that it was a subtle trauma, a silent one, that even we as a caregiver, as a health caregiver, we can also experience a trauma that we don't realize happening within us. It's not something gross. It's very subtle that trauma will eventually help you unable to help other people. And it's really a big help that we are now in this spiritual study, that we are able to understand ourselves, understand these very subtle things that happens to us. And when we are able to face it, somehow, eventually you can come out of it. That's my short experience.
How fortunate we are, sisters and brother, that we have found ourselves in this group because we are able to think and talk about experiences and our thoughts, which ordinarily encounters. So I really feel grateful and I feel gifted being in this group, because out there, far away, we have friends who join us. Hi, Duncan. Up there in Barili, right across Mount Canlaon, where's your
Excuse me.
sweeter half, Inday?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Yes, we're
afternoon.
at the shop here next to our cafe. It's been interesting to hear this week's extension of the topic. And Patsy, you're talking about the trauma of your own birth, and Helen, I thought your sharing last time was very special, and for that. So yeah, I mean, trauma is a big subject these days in terms of its focus, because psychologists and psychiatrists and medicine in general, it's mental health focus is realizing that the effects of trauma, the behaviors that people end up with or end up doing as a result of traumas, and there's much of that goes unknown on a personal level. It remains unconscious, and so there can be a big gap in terms of your personal development when you're not aware of your own effects of your own trauma, be it from birth or certain life experiences. And I was just looking up online the correct term, but I came across a group of people in the 1980s in Sydney, Australia, who started doing a thing called rebirthing. and it's conscious energy breathing, and it's now become a very highly regarded clinical study and practice. And it's really about helping people get into those subconscious levels of what traumas they've suffered in order to know it and move beyond it. So it went by the name of rebirthing for a few decades, and it's now referred to as conscious energy breathing. And I was just thinking, in terms of spiritual knowledge and the knowledge that we have about the self and the world through, say, Raj Yoga, that it's really about that trauma is about where we are impacted by our own story.
Yes.
And a big part of the meditation is about being able to get beyond the effect of your own story in order to make it better. I just wanted to add that
Thank you. And
discussion.
to give us some scientific thoughts about trauma, we have invited, and she has acquiesced very graciously, Dr. Roslyn Russell Velasquez Makiling. She is a doctor twice. Besides being a registered guidance counselor, and she's qualified to be that because she has a doctorate in education and another doctorate in clinical psychology. She is a practicing one in our midst, and she's very graciously sharing her experiences and her thoughts about trauma. This afternoon, she is our guest. She actually is our instructor. So, since she's not very sure about having the right kind of reception where she is now in Sugod, Cebu, Dr. Makiling has sent us her recording. Let's listen to her thoughts about trauma.
Good afternoon, viewers and participants. I am Dr. Russell Makiling, and I'm going to share with you my views about trauma. Trauma is a type of damage to the psyche that occurs as a result of a severely overwhelming, stressful event. This can cause lasting psychic wound that does not easily heal on its own. But not all bad experiences lead to trauma. Consequently, the traumatic event is persistently re-experienced in different ways. It can come through intrusive negative memories or through nightmares, dissociative reactions or flashbacks, prolonged stress after exposure to traumatic reminders, and physiologic reactivity after exposure to trauma-related stimuli. There are effects of trauma which we can remarkably observe through behavioral changes: irritability or aggressive behavior, self-destructive or reckless behavior, hypervigilance, exaggerated startled response. For developing individuals, especially in children and young adults, we can see that their learning or cognitive problems are could be arrested, and it affects their school performance. The most common symptom is sleep problem, and ultimately they become high risk for other mental health related problems or disorders. Most common are anxiety and depression related disorders. In the family, how does it affect in the family? Relationship trauma occurs when intimate relationship has involved substantial physical, sexual, emotional, or psychological abuse or neglect. It can cause trauma bond, wherein the abused will make up or will make excuses for the abuser. There is what we call codependency. And this is very common among family members, among husbands and wives with a narcissistic partner, and parents and children. In what ways can trauma be treated, or what intervention can be provided? We have different ways to treat trauma. First, we have to recognize the signs and symptoms and secure or ensure safety. Self-care. We encourage self-care and trust. Mindfulness, meditation, and of course, if you seek professional help, psychotherapy can be provided through cognitive behavior therapy, art therapy, and play therapy for children. And the most current approach is the emotion-focused therapy, wherein through narrative emotion process, in treating complex trauma, the role of the psychotherapist is to facilitate clients' emotional processing such that primary adaptive emotional responses can be accessed, symbolized, and meaningfully understood in the context of client personal storytelling and shared task interventions. And the goal is to consolidate emotional transformation Trauma is a treatable condition by developing positive coping mechanism. There is hope and there is help. We can provide assistance to people who needs help, who are experiencing trauma. Thank you and good afternoon.
Fortunate we are that we have listened to Dr. Makiling. Let's give her a big hand in our hearts. Actually, this is a double blessing for me because I have an appointment with a grandmother on Monday morning who will bring her grandson to Cebu City because they live in Consolacion. We will take him to a psychiatrist because he is a student. He is a grade 1 boy who's really intelligent, but who refuses to write. He is not in the science class. He's in the next rung. But because of his refusal to write, his teacher warned his father that within the next few weeks, he will be taken to a lower section. That, I said, would be traumatic for the child. So let us find out his problem by taking him to someone who can analyze his situation. I now have a big plan to take him to Dr. Makiling instead, because I really have learned a lot from what Dr. Makiling has shared with us. And truly, my experience with the little children I deal with in the pre-kindergarten classes that I have put up are really traumatic for the children. Now I see, after Dr. Makiling's explanation and Sister Patsy's sharing that her memory of her birthing has become truly traumatic. But sister, you are now one who assists people with problems such as what we are discussing about. And this is grace for all of us. Duncan, thank you for your thoughts. And that group in Australia, which has tackled rebirthing, I think we should know more about that. Sister? Sister, we don't hear you. Na-mute si sister ulit.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What I was actually when Duncan was talking about rebirthing, that was what I was going through, because I was going through a trainer's training for a body mind, we call it stress but actually related workshop. And in here we do have the process of rebirthing so that you could access through your subconscious memories, which the body stores. That's one of the things people don't know. Your body stores trauma. So we were doing breathing, we were doing exercises to release, to soften the body. Then later on, we go through that, no? But it has to be assisted. And I'm glad that Dr. McKeeling talked about using psychotherapy. The psychotherapy is different from psychiatrists or clinicians' approach. Psychotherapy looks at the whole picture, understands the subconscious, the work of the subconscious, understands how body is, the signs from the body. There are many different kinds of psychotherapy approaches. So sometimes one may, so it's also good to be aware that there's not just psychiatries, there's also psychotherapy. There are so many modalities now that we can access to. Especially nowadays, you can see it online. And I'm glad Dr. McKeeling is open to that, because not many conventional psychologists or psychotherapists could be. So that's why, and that's childhood, and this is reinforces other incidences that you have may reinforce one, and then it builds on. So lumalalim yan. And that's what we call deep impressions, no? They become very, very deep impressions in the sanskars, in the subconscious, and they become, as Sister Lily said, wounds of the soul, especially if it happens before 4 and before that time. And it needs a lot of healing. So she also mentioned meditation as one of the healing practices. Maybe the others would like to share. I don't want to take too much of their time. Thanks for opening that, Duncan, that entry point.
I think
Go ahead.
it's also a very big help that now fathers are allowed to go into the birthing room. I see that. And then also when the fathers, because they used to be in a waiting room outside the maternity room. But now they are allowed to watch the birthing of their children. I think that's a very big step towards, humanizing that initial step into the open world, from the comfort of the womb of our mothers to the cruel world outside.
Well, it can be a very warm experience if the parents both understand what's happening. They understand the birth process, and they welcome the child with a lot of love. It could be a very, as they say, a sacred moment where it is filled with love, and the child will be very secure, very stable from the very beginning. And that is especially, that's at least a good foundation, a good grounding. Some of us, I know, Brother Jude, you've had a lot of difficult, and that's an understatement, memories, even when you were growing up. Yeah? So anyway, I'm just opening the avenue for others also to share. Thank you.
Yes, and the fact also that now many women, I see women go to our barangay clinic because I often go to our barangay hall now. I see many women go there with their husbands. No? So nurturing or carrying the baby is no longer just the mother's business.
Responsibility.
Yes, it is now the responsibility of both father and mother, and also the siblings who are there, you know, and they are made to listen to the or to touch their mommy's tummies when their sibling in there is moving. I think that is a wonderful introduction towards a consolidated family life. A
Sana
future,
ganun.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's just that the reality is we live in a world where there are many dysfunctional families, even then, and even a little bit of the dysfunctionality happens. So others might like to share their own understanding and experience of trauma. I'd like to hear from Brother June. Ano ang unless you listen, there's so much to learn from you.
Truth is, honestly, I haven't experienced or witnessed the birth of my children because before it was not yet
Yes,
the practice.
not necessarily just
Yeah.
the birthing, but whatever trauma you've experienced when you were small or when you were big, others might like to hear about that too.
Yeah, it leads me to some questions like who really experiences trauma, the baby or the mother? Why is it that the baby cries loud out? No, and because I'm wondering what's the baby thinking, because is it the mother who really have more? Yeah, was it really trauma? Or is it pain?
Pain is something that is still a little bit bearable. Trauma is something that's very, very deep, that has mixed in a lot of other feelings, that becomes like a very deep wound. Like there's a trauma when there's an impact, when there's a deep impression, and it leaves a very, very deep impression in the consciousness, in the memory bank of
In
the
the soul.
of the soul, whether it is a child or it is an adult. In the birthing process, both would have a trauma, but the child, not many know, has a lot of difficulty because the passageway is not exactly huge to accommodate a baby. So they're squeezed, they are pushed, they are pulled into a birth canal. It's a canal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so every time there's a contraction, there's an energy that it's like a wave that will push you, pull you, parang, can you imagine that? So it's not easy to go through that.
It is not easy to be born. Therefore, we have to appreciate our lives.
The mother, yung pain. Kasi every time there's a contraction, there's a pain. But you can manage it through the breathing. There are many ways now to manage birthing na madali. May water birth na nga and so on. I'm sorry to cut you, Tensi. Please, I apologize.
That was wonderful, sister. Very, very. Thank you. So
I just wanted to ask the question, would it be a shared experience, a shared trauma for the unborn child and the mother? So, or in the case that I'm thinking of, maybe some emotional stress, trauma experienced by the mother. and then felt by the
Yes.
child in the prenatal stage or the natal stage.
On the mother side, we can see that it is really painful. It's more traumatic.
Physically, you see.
But on the baby side, you cannot tell.
Never see.
You
Well,
cannot tell because you don't know what
see,
the baby's
the
thinking
research now says that
unless there
we
is
can
really.
tell. But it's only when you become older, the child becomes older, that the manifestation of perhaps that trauma
Yes.
emerges. And that's
Yes.
what the rebirthing sessions in the 1980s and 90s were starting to reveal, that people were having prenatal
Mhm.
memories.
Mm.
And
If
it's an
we
interesting
assume,
thing because,
I'm
well, I
very
mean,
sure.
in the, you know, the phenomena, I'll just leave you with this one last thought, which relates to it, to what a baby will experience in the womb before birth. A lot of horror movies use sounds and impactful sounds that reflect upon sounds that maybe a baby will hear in the womb. And this has become a formula in Hollywood, that sounds that mimic a prenatal experience actually give impact to frightening or disturbing experiences, messages. So there you go.
the mother can really say that it's painful, it's traumatic, but the baby cannot say that. Right?
But it's, yes, but it's, as Duncan was saying, now there are, because of all of these interventions that's happening, there are memories that are emerging. Like I have a memory when I was coming out, and in a way I could relate to the birthing trauma in that context, no? And I also did, and I read up on it also in the very beginning. I did kasi home birth, so I had to understand what was happening, and I had to understand.
Maybe the obstetrician can say
Ah,
better
yes.
experience because
Yeah, I was just listening to all your what you call haka-haka. But I'd
yeah.
just like to share some of the studies that we have learned. For the question of Brother June, who has the greater pain, the mother or the baby? I think it would be the baby. The mother would have the physical pain, definitely.
Yes.
But apart from we have a lot of anesthesia nowadays, right after the birthing, I have witnessed a lot of exhilarating happiness and joy from the mother,
yes.
to the point that she would forget all the pain that she underwent.
Yes.
Yeah. But the baby, we were talking about it in the hospital. Why does a baby cry? For me, my theory is that first time the baby separated from the mother, wherein he or she was with the mother for 9 months. Imagine that. And in spirituality, I remember there was a senior teacher saying that as a soul, the baby seeks the mother.
Mm.
It's not the other way around.
Okay.
It's like we come to each other's lives because we have a karmic account to be with that person. So it's usually the baby that seeks the mother, the family, including the family. So I think it's really the baby who has more trauma. And like what Sister Patsy was saying a while ago, she had that memory of trauma while coming out. Wow. That's incredible because you can still remember
It was
I don't
because
know.
yeah, no, it was only because of this. What now they have a new term for it in the early 90s. We called it rebirthing, and this now they call it something breathing, like purposeful breathing to trigger the memories in the subconscious, hidden in the subconscious. No, but they are there. Your body also stores the memories of that. No, and from my readings of Lamas, which was
Mhm.
the precursor of the very original natural healing method, uh, the baby not only is taken out, no? Kasi the umbilical cord is the bond that ties the mother
Yes.
and the child. So the cutting of that womb of the cord is
Umbilical
already
cord.
a separation. Yeah. And then there's also all of a sudden, can you imagine, hindi naman, unless naririnig ng bata din yung lahat ng tulog ng mga whatever is in the inside, the organs of the body, that I don't know. But coming out of the womb, this is from Lamas, all of a sudden there's sound, there's talking, there's glaring lights, kasi usually, di ba, you have big, hindi naman sila sanay sa glaring lights. And then
Yes.
they're taken out and they are usually in water. Biglang iba ang atmosphere. So there was this practice of pag-alis ng bata sa womb, dinalagay sa warm water, like a bath.
Mhm.
Pinapasok muna para hindi ma-trauma sa paglaba sa
lamig.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
The lamig, the noise, the light. Can you imagine being carried away from your mom? Kaya nga now, there's also a practice, linalagay dito yung bata, then hinihimas ng mom. I don't know if they do that in your condo, but those
Yeah.
are some of the practices. Now,
Yeah, it's being practiced. It's a must to do that, especially if the baby is healthy and the mom is also healthy. Right after delivery, you don't bring the baby anymore to to separate the
nursery,
baby. Instead,
yes.
yeah, you put the baby right on the mother's chest.
Yes.
Yeah, here. Then
Yes.
you stroke, because there's a bond, there's an imprinting, they call it.
Yeah.
You can call that. So that's why nga sa even with animals, the first person they see, they imprint with. Kaya ako minsan, kung yung nanay, yung tatay, kung yung doktor. I don't know, but that's just something that I was reading on also. But anyway, this is where the healing must come in whatever way you can. And I was happy that I helped myself heal because of the meditation practices. And if there is a karmic account with mother, and I'm sure there was as I was growing up, then this is where the relationship of God as my mother was healing me. No? And the awareness that I'm a soul with all of these beautiful qualities, inangat yung self-honor ko. Because I was feeling, ba't ako iniwan? Ba't ako, and even as ang dami kong eksena na mga inaban, hindi na nasama. So yung self-worth ko lumiliit. So the practice of knowing your true worth and connecting to the highest, who is the most worthy one, helps boost and heal. Then kailangan the wound of the soul is healed. No? And this is where what we understand now, and a lot of the knowledge also, of course, and a lot of healing had to be done, and it's still ongoing kasi malalalim.
So that first embrace of the mother when the child is newly born, that is a very precious moment for the soul, that she has just released out into the world. And how really, really lucky we are that we are able to discuss this, because this discussions such as this, Sir June, these are not really part of our everyday encounters in the world. Because out there, we talk more about economics and politics and all the icks, but we forget the humanity that we have to foster in each of us, because we are the children of a loving God who really has us in his embrace. But many of us do not realize because of the many problems that we see
We
in
talk-
our everyday lives.
We talk of the separation from the womb as traumatic. More traumatic is parents giving the children for adoption.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
More
yes.
traumatic.
Was that something that you know of?
Again,
Was that something? Is it something that you know of?
Very
something
much.
that I experienced personally.
That's what
And I know how traumatic, not only for me, but for my siblings, because we were all, most of us were given for adoption.
and it's a bit that's a very strong impression, a very strong, it's a wound, you know, it's a wound that sometimes it does not heal because you forgot about it. It heals over a long period of time with a lot of love, and usually, you know,
The wounds heal, but the scars will always be there forever.
as long as the scars become
Yes,
medals of honor and strength,
that's right.
then you know, I have a lot of battle. Then
That's right.
I can display my
The
scars.
physical wound, you can see the scar, but the emotional wound, you cannot see.
I am very sure we all have these, but few of us see them as such. So they remain the unspoken part of our lives. But if we are able to come out in, you know, discussions like this, and if we are exposed to you know, moments when we can heal, no opportunities for healing, I think we will be nearer that goal that we want to achieve, which is union. Yes, sister.
I wanted to ask Brother June what helped you heal and how you were able to shift, like from where you came from. I know it's a long trauma after trauma, your story as you were growing up, but how did you help yourself heal? Now that you say they become scars and now they become your medal of honor. So how was the honor of the soul tawag nito, na-reclaim?
Well, you know, the worst experience and most traumatic experience for a child is when the child learns that he is an adopted child after 7 years, not from the adopted parents and not from the biological parents, but dun sa mga marites,
Outside.
dun sa paligid.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's-
that happens.
That's traumatic.
Oh, yeah.
That's very traumatic. But your question, how
How did you help yourself? How were you
Well,
able
you know,
to
I've been-
ultimately heal?
I've been an angry person since I was a child until I learned to, you know, during my time with Brahma Kumaris, that's where I was able to cut and remove the scars. Otherwise, I will be forever an angry person. I hate everyone. I hate the world. I hate my parents. I hate everyone. I hate everything.
June, do you
Yes.
think that do you think that experience, that feeling that you have is a kind of a powerlessness that
Again?
your, you know, your to a close family was taken away from you? That do you think that because anger is usually a kind of frustration with something you can't
Mhm.
change, or you feel
A loss.
change, or a loss, yeah. So you know, the karmic experience, or the knowledge of karma can can help free you from that with a sense of with a different sense, you know, like replacing that experience that makes you want to have those feelings of anger. You know, because that's the healing part of discovering trauma. You see, is
the value of
discovering how it affects you.
the value of acceptance has taught me a lot. When I started accepting that everything that happened to me it happened, it's good. If it's not good, it's better. If it's not better, it's best. If it is not best, it's beneficial. So from there, slowly, I managed to when I started sharing my experience, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because every time I share my I share my experience, it's a healing period, it's a healing time for me.
And what's more, Sir June, you have shared it in print. Yes. So many people who really will not get in touch, who will not meet you personally, can be helped by your sharing with them your experience through the printed word. That is a blessing indeed.
Yeah, may I say something? You know,
Yes,
I
Doctor.
think rejection, it is one of the getting rejected is one of the biggest trauma that we ever have. And if you're being given away, right, that's one big rejection.
It's the
And as a
first.
child,
Yeah,
yeah, you cannot fathom why
that's right.
the very person who had you for 9 months had to give you away.
Yeah. In the first
So
place, I
that's
didn't.
why, yeah, in DSWD now, when we get when we sign for adoption, they wanted you to get it while the baby is still a baby,
That's right.
before 1 year old.
Imprint. Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
In the first place, the parents we did not the baby did not ask the parents to
To have them.
before.
Birth them.
It's and then you know, they are the ones suffering. They're the ones
Yes.
suffering, the babies, you know. And it's good for parents who really adopted the
At a
children.
young, at a young,
Still,
very young
yeah,
age, rather than when
they
they are
should be
big.
able to tell because had I been told, it would be a different story.
Yes.
And if you had been told with the right words and the right atmosphere, that would have helped a lot. So right now I'm thinking of my experience with the Good Shepherd sisters in Malabon and in Tagaytay, who really sheltered their children, the little girls and boys who they helped, you know, to be born into the world, knowing that these children will be given away, so that the sisters prepare the atmosphere for these babies. And we in the faculty, we in the teaching force, we too had to be educated towards the achievement of their goals. I have met many mothers who were ready to give their babies away. Many of them were resentful, but they had to, because they couldn't raise the children properly. And in the past, when I was a beginning teacher, you know, it was, I mean, giving the baby away and having the baby out of marriage was traumatic for everyone. But fortunately, society has become a little bit, just a wee bit more kindness really is what we need for in situations like this. I think we have a long way to go, but we are going towards, you know, we are inching our way towards our goal of having a really human and humane existence in our
I
world.
mean,
of
do you know
challenges.
an association of adopted children?
No,
No.
not in the
You
Philippines.
see? It
I-
could have been better if there is an association of adopted children where they can, exchange and
It's
take
like a
care of each
support group,
other.
support
Group,
group.
right?
like a support group,
Mm.
like they, so that they can help each other.
They can.
Mend
Because
and heal.
sometimes
Yes.
they listen to, they hear from different kind of people who had no experience
Mhm,
being adopted,
mhm,
and that's quite difficult.
mhm,
You know?
mhm.
Hello, Renu.
That's a
Hi,
good. That's a good
hello,
idea.
you're there.
Renu. So we really can do much, Sir June. No? And probably now we know we have the willpower.
It takes more than
Takes-
willpower to.
Yes.
It's easier said than
But
done.
but there has got to be a start. No? Whatever it is, we can always start.
I when I was a little kid, I blame God. I hated
Very
God for
common.
so long. Why he allowed it to happen? What's my, because you don't know karma,
Yeah.
then that
Or this.
it was a consequence of my karmic account. And it's a good opportunity for me to settle my karmic accounts with, not necessarily with my biological parents, but of course with my adopted parents. It's very difficult because my adopted parents cannot afford to pay my tuition fee. So I have been adopted by another sort of parents who finance my
Your tuition.
my education. So I have educational parents, biological parents, and adopted parents. I'm sure a lot of people also, a lot of adopted children have the same experience.
This discussion really has brought up many, many beautiful thoughts among all of us. So let's thank one another for having been together this afternoon. And we still have one more Saturday to this for this discussion. And let's get together next week. So thank you very much for all the sharing, Sister Patsy, Duncan, Miss Bell,
Thank
Sir
you, June.
June.
Thank
And
you.
Renu joined us very, very briefly a while ago.
Si Helen.
And Dr. Helen, oh yes. And thank you very much, Dr. Russell, for sharing your expertise and your love with us. Because surely you handled your subject matter with more than just scientific know-how. You shared your love with us. On Saturday, Sister Denise Lawrence will talk to us about the impact of trauma. Oh, that will be on August 24th,
24th, 24.
2024. Okay.
It's Saturday, 17.
So let us now go into our closing meditation.